radio.com. I'm your host, AJ Woodson. Damon K. Jones is out today celebrating Father's Day. A shout to all the fathers out there. Happy Father's Day. All the fathers that are holding it down for their kids. I got the shirt on for all of us. Black fathers matter. You know what I'm saying? Because black fathers do matter despite what the media tells us. So shout to all the brothers that's holding it down. All the brothers that are raising somebody else's kids. And there's a father figure, whether you're a stepfather or whatever. So shout to all of you. Real quick, before I get into the show, I just want to say one thing. So I did a review of this new Nas joint. It's called Cop Shot the Kid. And it's like incredible. It reminds me of the essence of hip hop that I first fell in love with. With the sample from Slick Rick's joint, paying homage to the legendary Slick Rick. Got a sample from the joint children's story off the album, The Great Adventures of Slick Rick. But all I have to say is, if you gotta go listen to this, if you're a real hip hop head, this you gotta. Black Westchester did a review, gave 5 fists up in the air, and I hail the album as a must for any serious hip hop collection. You have to have this joint. This is a serious move for hip hop, and Cop Shot the Kid is gonna be the song of the summer. So I just wanted to get that out there real quick. I was telling Bob about it. I read the review to him. Then we was going out, jumped in the car, and Funkmaster Flex must have played it for what? Like. Let me turn everybody's mic on. Funkmaster Flex must have played it for 15 minutes. He was just playing it, just kept cutting it up, just kept playing it. You know what I'm saying? Shout to Flex. Shout to Kanye. This is probably the best release on his Good Music label. He's the executive producer, and even though he's bat crazy right now, he's still a musical genius when it comes to when he's focused. Can't nobody touch him. So shout to him. Now let me introduce, of course, as always, we got the lovely Loraine Lopez in the house and the place to be.
Hey,
we got Brooklyn Bob, a.k.a. Biff Baskerville, in the house.
Shit. What the hell? Now you go down, get ready to switch it up on you.
Biff Baskerville. shout to E. Yeah. Shout to E, Brother Supreme. Shout out to who helped me come up with that name, Biff Baskerville, yesterday. That's his new name, Biff Baskerville, in the place to be. Welcome everybody who just tuned in, because Facebook Live is just tuned on. You are listening to Black Westchester Presents the People Before Politics radio show on In the Mix every Sunday, 6 to 8. And this is how we get down. I'm AJ Woodson. We got Dr. Robert Baskerville, a.k.a. Biff Baskerville, a.k.a. Brooklyn Bob. We got the lovely Loraine Lopez, the honorary Loraine Lopez.
Don't go there.
Okay, but still, you got. I never said on the radio, so I said one time.
Okay,
one
cool.
time,
Thank you.
one time.
No, that's cool. Go ahead, say it.
Former Yonkers city councilwoman in the place to be, the first Latina city councilwoman in Yonkers. Making history. You know what I'm saying? We got to honor our history. We got to always see. We like to say, "Oh, that was before," but we got to look at the things that got us here, because her being in that seat paved the way for other Latinos in office. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, we got to honor and represent our history.
Amen.
If you don't know where you don't know where you're going if you don't know where you've been. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
I think I said that wrong, but you know what I mean. Though. You know I'll paraphrase.
Good enough, AJ.
Well, happy Father's Day, AJ, and Dr. Bob and everyone out there.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Loraine,
we got a couple of guests.
it.
We're gonna bring in one in about say about 10 minutes or so. The youngest. Well, if he wins, he would make history. Talking about history as the youngest mayor in the city of Yonkers. Shout to Andre Rainey, who won his election, was the youngest mayor in Peekskill. And others who have made history. So, and then after that, we have the Black Republican. I wish we could play music. I'd play that song by Jay-Z and Nas, Black Republican. We have the Black Republican, Joe Pinion, who's running on the Republican. He's the Republican nominee for Shelley Meyer's vacant assembly seat. Loraine usually knows the districts. You know what district that is?
Oh, Shelley Myers?
Yeah.
Isn't it the 35th?
I'm yielding to you. Every time I say something, you always come out with the district. So he will be on later. We're gonna be dealing with Yonkers. Not too much about Vernon this week. The city council wrote a letter to the mayor about because they got the temporary restraining order. The mayor had a rally of some sort in Memorial Field yesterday, and the city council said in doing so and having that many people violates the TRO. So we're going to see what they're going to do about it, if anything. But got a couple of things coming. Again, check out, if you haven't got a copy, make sure you check out the June issue of Black Westchester. Next month will be our 12th edition. August will be our anniversary edition. We will have been here 1 year. We will have special 1 year anniversary t-shirts for sale. And then the first week of August will also be the 4-year anniversary of this show. Damon and I started this show August 3rd, 2014. And we're here now.
Wow.
And this August will be 4 years later. 4 years of giving you real talk for the community. 4 years of covering all kinds of topics. 4 years of candidates. 4 years of, we've had everybody on the show from State Senator Andrea Stewart, Cousins. We've had the county legislator who was state senator at the time, George Latimer, and then we're going to get him back on as county legislator now. We've had the deputy county executive who was a
County legislator.
He was a county legislator at the time. Had Lyndon Williams on. We've had Hafiz Muhammad, that basically, I forget his title, the East Coast Eastern. He's the head East Coast person of the Nation of Islam, basically. Shout to him. We've had Captain Dennis. We've had Bob Law, the legendary radio host Bob Law. We've had a host of
Barry
candidates.
McGooey.
Barry McGooey from the Yonkers Fire Union. We've had the Mount Vernon Fire Department here when they had their calendar. We had the calendar cover guys.
Uh-huh. Oh, man, I missed that one.
They were here promoting. Yeah, you could have had that calendar. They gave it to me. I had to have, now Cynthia was here then, and I had to have Cynthia look at it because they was like, well, tell them about the calendar. I wasn't going to tell. You wouldn't get me saying, oh, yeah, February, that's a must-have. You got to see February. Now, those words don't come out of my mouth, so I had to have a woman discuss how the calendar looked. So I gave mine away. So, but no, they had a calendar, so we had them on. We've had a host of people on, and we've had several Republicans that have came. We've had several candidates who've been told not to come and came and enjoyed themselves. We've had a few that got away so far. We record the show in Yonkers, and we still have yet to have the Yonkers mayor come through.
This is week two of no callback.
Right. So
but
go ahead, run it down.
We got to give him a break for week 2 because of the budget that was going on and because it's Father's Day. So, but it's still week 2 of no callback.
Okay, we got a couple of people on the check-in. Go to my page. Go to the video. Somebody says something, but they wrote it in Spanish, and I'm going to need you to tell you what they said.
No, that's not Spanish. I think that's French.
Oh, okay. Well, shout to, I hope that's June.
Joan Oliveira.
Okay, there you go. See, I need some help with those things. See, shout to, that's what we have. We have Dr. Bob here.
No, that's not my purpose. I got to be honest with you. I'm going to have to confess the limitations of my own knowledge.
Turn that down. We have, let me see who's on the check-in. Brenda L. Crump, always holding us down. Oscar Davis Jr., Mount Vernon trustee president right now. The Future Society, Edward, I never pronounce your name right. It's Doebke. Shout to you, Glenn Butler. Who else? Edward said the political party can get, okay.
Donna Jackson.
Get the middle finger. Glenn Butler said you had Glenn. Oh yes, we had Glenn Butler. I'm sorry. Yes, we definitely had Glenn Butler, and we had. We had.
That was cute.
And we had We had Miss Irene Renee. She came in.
Soul sister.
Performed. And we also had Angela Johnson. She came in and she sang my favorite song for me, Black Boy Lullaby, which is definitely I always post a live video of that every time another black youth is killed by the police. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's a letter to her unborn child talking about how, you know what I'm saying, the system is against us and how you got to be careful. And it's a beautiful song. If you never heard it, Google Angela Johnson, Black Boy Lullaby, and Black Westchester. There's a live video of her performing it. So we've had her on there, and yes, we've had Glenn Butler. My bad, dude. There's a lot of people that I haven't mentioned. Who else? I forgot that I'm not on my laptop. I'm trying to use my finger to roll up. Shout out to Victor Allen. Thank you for the flyer. Victor Allen is the administrative assistant of County Legislator Lyndon Williams. He's checking out the show. Everybody else checking out the show again. Teef Khalil. Respect. Go ahead. I see your face all screwed. So go ahead.
I'm sorry. I wanted to know if I could interject.
And please do. Please do.
I wanted to, since we have Lyndon Williams, legislative assistant,
okay,
on, I wanted to tell the audience that I had a pleasure to run into Legislator Williams yesterday during the celebration, the annual fundraiser for Nestor Williams.
Well, it was a New Flex Princess Beauty Pageant 2018. We saw that. We went there yesterday. I'll talk about that too.
Which we attended yesterday, and Lyndon Williams also attended. And one of the pieces of news that he shared with me that I wanted to convey to the audience was the county legislators' recent enactment of a bill that would have all contracts taken out by the county set aside a certain number of jobs to target high poverty areas in Westchester County, which essentially means that, as comes to no surprise to any audience member, poverty tends to be much more highly concentrated in Black and Latino communities, which means that once this legislation is fully implemented, we can expect to see an increase in the number of job opportunities. And I think Legislator Williams has to be commended for that, along with his colleagues on the Board of Legislators. And perhaps in the near future, we'll have an opportunity to have him on air to discuss it in greater detail. So I just wanted to mention that.
Make that out. Oscar Davis is giving you a hand clap for what you just said.
Okay.
I have to address. So we have a brother named Edward. He's made several comments about the government not caring about us and all that and everything. That's why we do this show. That's why we tell people they have to get involved. We as the people have to get involved, and the electoral process in electing the right candidates. You have to get involved in your local election. Your mayor is the one who appoints the police commissioner and all the other commissioners. So if you don't like the way your city is being governed, you need to get involved and to vote in your city. You know what I'm saying? Sit back. While I agree with a lot of what you said, that the problem is all we do as minorities, we complain. Well, other groups of people, they change how if they don't like the way their city is being governed or the way things are being done, they make a change. They stand up. They support somebody who's going to They support somebody who's going to do what they want them to do, and we sit there and take what is handed to us and complain about it. So we got to get involved in the political process if we want to see change. We can't just throw the middle finger up at the government and the police. You know what I'm saying? That's not going to solve the problem and bring us any peace or any kind of change. We need to get involved. And a lot of that is going to your city council meetings, make your voice heard. A lot of that is voting and supporting a candidate that serves the needs of the community the way you want it. So we have to be involved in the people as a people. And if we continue not to be involved, we'll say, I don't vote, and all this and all that, we're going to continue to get what we're getting.
Which is nothing.
And he's talking about the federal government. You can make more changes in your local government by voting in them local elections, which affects you way more than the federal election does. Because these people dictate all your services in your city. You know what I'm saying? Everything. So you want change, start with your local government. Get involved, vote, go to city council meetings, vote.
I mean,
that's all I wanted to say about it. Go
I
ahead.
want to add in, because this, I think, is an especially important issue for black men in particular, and I'm going to extend it maybe to Latino men as well. Our communities are ones that find themselves under the most severe attack by the current policies of the administration, and yet a lot of recent analysis of outcomes of recent elections suggests that black men are absent in record numbers from the electoral process. Politics is not sufficient condition for us to forge a progressive agenda, but it's a necessary component of that. And my view is that far too many people, and I'm going to say African American brothers, Latino brothers in particular, are acting out of a sense of resignation, as if we are, even if it is the case, and I would agree that the current power arrangements often work against us, that doesn't mean that that is something that cannot be changed. And we cannot seed in advance the current layout of the power structure here in the United States. If the power structure is unfair, then it's our responsibility to, A, recognize that we do have some agency to make changes, and part of that means exploring creative new alternatives. If the shit that we're doing now ain't working, then maybe we need to try something else.
Now, not only that, though, yeah, the system is, I mean, we got to stop complaining the system is rigged against us. I mean, it's been that since day one. But on top of the voting part, there's the activism part.
Yo, our ancestors was enslaved.
Yeah.
And they managed somehow to change the terms of the social contract.
Right.
We're not enslaved.
And the people are not going to change because it's the right thing to do. And people didn't pass the legislation that black people didn't have to ride the side of the bus because it was the right thing to do. They boycotted the bus system for over a year. Them buses was losing money. They said, get them black people whatever they want to get them back on the buses. Pass any law you need, because they was about to go out of business. Over a year, picture all the money minorities spent on a bus. And no minority was taking the buses for over a year. Them people was losing crazy money. You got to hit them in their pocket. You know what I'm saying? We got to make, nobody's going to give you, freedom is not free. Nobody's just going to give it to you because it's the right thing to do.
Right.
The people, nobody in charge that's running it down, is making their money off the back of other people, and their power comes at the back of other people. None of them people are just going to wake up one day and go, you know what? What we're doing is not so nice. We're just going to give them what they want. No, you got to fight for it. So what are you willing to do for it? All those things that's being said is true, and this is not for just Edward. It's for everybody who say that. What are you willing to do? Freedom is not free. What are you willing to do to make a change? What are you doing to make a change? Those are the questions we have to ask, and those are what we have to go out and do. We're talking about the political process. We're talking about local elections, and we have two people that'll be on today that are running in local elections here in the county of Westchester and in the city of Yonkers. We're going to bring the first one on. His name is Prince Robinson. He's 26 or 27. He'll tell you when he gets here. He is running for mayor of Yonkers, and if he wins, like I said, he would actually be the youngest elected in the history of the city of Yonkers. That alone, win or lose, that a 20-something individual will just even, because he's tired of the way his city is governed, that's another thing. Run or identify other people and back them when they do run. That's how we make change. With that said, let me give you official People Before Politics round of applause. Now, I'm going to be honest. At the age 25, 26, 27, and even 35, I wasn't thinking about running for no damn office. You know what I'm saying? What got into you that made you just be like, yo, I could run for mayor and do it? They have not had an African-American mayor, I don't think, ever in Yonkers. You know what I'm saying? And your age. You know what I'm saying? So what made you, I want you to pull the mic close to you. It moves. Pull it as close to you as you can. Introduce yourself and tell us what made you run and why you're running.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I'm greatly appreciative. I actually wanted to do it 4 years ago, believe it or not. I wanted to do it 4 years ago, but obviously I didn't feel like, age-wise was appropriate at that point. It's not about the age right now. It's actually like I know Spano on a personal level, and personally, I'd say he's a great guy, but he can't manage the city of Yonkers. So I would do a better job.
Now, how would you do a better job?
Yeah.
Because, and I say this because everybody on the outside who has never sat in that position before always say they can do the job better than the person there, and they've never been there. So how do you feel you could do a better job?
You definitely have to start with putting the residents of the city of Yonkers first. With the budget cuts, it was mentioned that they was gonna lay off firefighters, cops, EMS, teachers first. The thing is, sometimes with the police department, there's a lot of overtime in the police department. And they were saying, John Rubble even mentioned that
John Rubel?
John Rubel, sorry. John Rubel mentioned that they rather have cops on overtime.
Wait. So for us that don't live in Yonkers, who is John Rubel?
He is he's a city council.
Okay.
And so they were saying they agree that they rather have cops on overtime. We should be able to as a whole, just make sure that Yonkers is better. As far as where we don't need overtime in police departments. Fire department is totally different. Fire departments, fires can happen and whatnot. But crime is one thing that I could definitely help lower. We could help lower out as total. We have to have more programs in the city for that.
Okay. Now I know in the article and in your press release, you made a bold comment. And that is, it was dealing with the layoffs.
Yeah.
And you said, as far as the layoffs go, this is a severe issue. No one who runs into blazes, teaches our community, and saves lives should be laid off. If you're doing an impeccable job, you deserve it at any cost. However, employees like firefighter
Gustavo Bravo.
Okay. Who admitted to sexually assaulting a woman at a party in 2016, you should be laid off, terminated, and thrown in jail. If I am elected mayor, the buck will stop with me. Corruption has to end from the very top, and so forth. That is a bold statement.
And there's actually I can't comment on anything about the two. I don't know those stories about there's two other firefighters who, they had a little altercation. I don't want to. There's no charges yet. I don't think the charges have been filed yet or whatnot. But if he
one is a very good friend of mine.
Okay, I understand. If he admits to sexually assaulting a woman, why is he still having a job at the fire department? That's uncalled for. How are the women and just people in the community safe with people like that at the fire department?
Now, when you make a statement like that, and I want Loraine to get her question in, are you worried about alienating the firefighters?
No, of course not. Of course not. But the ones who commit the crimes, of course, If I'm in there, if I'm in there and I don't plan on doing anything against the law, if I am, I'll be the first to step down from my position. Why not?
One more question before Atif Khalil said, "Why should I, a Yonkers resident, vote for you?"
Because I actually care about the city of I care about the city of Yonkers residents first. That's my. I've been here since 2008. I'm in the community. I produced a lot of comedy shows inside of Yonkers. I hire people from Yonkers, like local Yonkers comedians. I want to do, provide a lot for the residents, just on so many levels.
Well, I'm gonna yield to former Yonkers, and that's purposely why I mentioned it. Former Yonkers City Councilwoman Loraine Lopez.
All right, I have a couple of questions, AJ. Mm-hmm. Number one, how exactly will you balance the budget?
I like that. Thanks for putting me on the spot. I appreciate that.
No, that's something you're going to have to do.
Loraine, you would have left me stumped with that one. I got to tell you, that was a tough one.
The first priority is not increasing the taxes. That's the first one. That's not going to happen. you gotta put it in schools. You gotta put it in the fire department and police department. But you gotta work on the overtime. You can't have as much overtime as going on right now.
You can't balance the budget by stopping overtime, though. I mean, there's a lot more involved in that. I mean, we go through this every single year, and I mean, how exactly are you going to do that? Are you qualified to balance a budget? Is the question.
Am I qualified? No, I'm not qualified to balance. I am learning every day that I wake up. Right now, I'm doing research, more research as possible. I'm not qualified, but I'm doing my research.
So you're a work in progress.
I'm a work in progress. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And now, all right. I guess that's fair enough. Another question is, how would you avoid nepotism and cronyism?
I wouldn't hire any. If a family member of mine is qualified to do the job, then sure, like I'd hire them. But as far as if they're not qualified to do the job, then no, I'm not going to hire you to do a job that you can't do.
What if your brother, your uncle, your aunt, whoever is qualified, but someone more qualified applied for the job?
Honestly, no. I would give it to the person who's most qualified, because it's not only like, let's say my brother wants to be a chief on a fire squad, and if the other person is more qualified and he doesn't know exactly how to operate it, then he could be responsible for the lives of so many people, like his own and just so many in general, So of that, I would put the person who's more qualified to have it.
Dr. Bob, I know you always have a question or two. Please chime in somewhere around here.
Well, firstly, I'm going to begin with a comment. Okay. And Brother Robinson, although it is my pleasure meeting you for the first time, I have to tell you that because we live in a moment in national and world history where we seem to have an increasing rise of autocratic political leaders, personified both at the national level with Donald Trump and also at the local level in the action and behavior of Mayor Richard Thomas. I have to tell you that I would like you to seriously rethink your position that calls for the incarceration of a member of the municipal force who has been accused of a crime. Just a word of advice. I think any executive political official, when asked about their views on a crime, is always supposed to voice a commitment to allowing the judicial process to proceed unfettered, and you'll support any results. Although I understand as an ordinary resident you might be incensed at allegations that this firefighter has committed sexual assault, as someone, you set yourself up for a possible conflict of interest because you have taken a public statement on his possible guilt and how he should be treated. So,
with Gustavo, he admitted it though.
So I think, and if I can interject here, I think that may call for a suspension, but termination and all that just yet. And if he's not, because I mean, again, I like to point out, regardless, I don't know the individual. I'm not pro him.
Yeah, I don't know him.
I'm not pro him, against him. None of this.
I don't know him.
But I mean, again, I have to say, and for anybody listening that does know him, we are supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. Also, wanted to real quick. Damon K. Jones has tuned in from wherever he's at right now, celebrating Father's Day. He's sharing the show on everybody else's page. So a big shout out to my partner in crime, Damon K. Jones, who always holds it down. So he couldn't be there today. I just wanted to make sure we shouted him out.
And shout out to my partner-in-law, Damon K. Jones.
And happy Father's Day.
Oh, I said in crime, you said it more. Yeah.
No.
So now Damon said if he's playing the role of management, they always ask for termination.
Come again one more time.
If he's playing the role of management, they always ask for termination. That was a comment from Damon.
Gotcha.
Who's a 28, who's been in law enforcement for 28 plus years, who's the head of Blacks in Law Enforcement of America, who works closely with the Westchester Police Reform, Coalition for Police Reform, who works with the Westchester Black Political Caucus. He well-rounded, and as far as law enforcement, I yield to him on most things. He said Happy Father's Day to all the fathers as well.
Happy Father's Day, Damon.
And then Oscar Davis also wanted to say, but there must be due process. So,
right, yeah.
Can I ask some more questions?
I yield to the honorary Loraine Lopez. Go ahead.
I'm not Oscar Davis. I'm not insisting on this now. What party are you running in?
Democratic Party.
The Democratic Party. Have you ever been a district leader, ward leader? Do you have any of them on your side?
I'm not a career politician. I have not been in any party previously.
Oscar Davis asked a similar question. What have you ran for? What have you been elected to? What experience do you have?
I'm not a career politician. I'm coming from being a comedy show producer and an entertainment manager. I'm used to dealing with stress. I've done Madison Square Garden as a comedian, and it's like it's obviously not the same thing. But I know how to handle pressure. I know how to handle crisis and manage finances.
Well, the comedian aspect might come in handy because the politics of the system right now is definitely a joke. So you need to have some kind of sense of humor when you're dealing with that. But I think I want to state, though, while I appreciate the questions, I like to bring both sides of it. Most people don't have experience when they go into these positions. I do think you should know everything about it. You should know how the system works. Most people find that it's not what they thought when they get there. They can't just move the way they thought they were going to move. They made campaign promises that, sometimes you really don't have the power to deliver. You know what I'm saying? Just to run. I hope you keep those in mind, and I wish you the best of luck. But we're going to, Loraine, I know you got some more questions as far as Yonkers and everything is concerned.
No, we got Joe PINION is here, just so that you'll know.
So, okay. David K. Soden said, a lot of politicians are
comedians too.
If they're not comedians, they're a joke. So either way. So now that's an interesting. Now you're speaking to, we reach a lot of people in Westchester. A lot of people in Yonkers do listen. And the show is on the internet where it can be shared over and over and over. So at some point, people are going to listen to the things you said here.
Okay.
How does, because you talk about comedy and people like comedy, politics, how does that translate being a comedian to being an elected official, the highest elected official in the city that runs the city? And some people would say, why not try to be, like say, district leader first or a city council person, learn the system first and then move up then to run for mayor? Why go straight to mayor?
I'll applaud that question. I actually applaud that question. I don't want to give a response for that. I decline a response.
Wait. As mayor, as mayor or
Lord
any
have
other
mercy,
elected
man.
official,
Okay.
you have to answer the question. And you just said that you're good under pressure.
I'm good under pressure.
All right, so let's talk. Let's
So
talk.
I'm about to start heckling you in a minute. No, go ahead.
Okay. All right, so I could have I could have decided to go look into being a district leader and whatnot. I just felt the urge to run for this candidacy. If I'm not elected, that's cool. I will do other things in the city of Yonkers, but I just felt like this is something I really want to do. It's not coming just from the brain. It's coming from the heart. This is something I'm like guaranteed I'm destined to do.
So if because nothing's promised.
Yes.
If you do not win, and it is an uphill battle, especially if Spano has the 4 votes to overturn term limits, he's the incumbent, and the Spano family are they, as far as local politics is concerned, it's hard to beat them. The whole Spano thing just threw me off, though, in the middle of my thought, actually. So if not elected, what would you be doing? What would you do to improve your city, even if you're not elected?
Produce more comedy shows just like produce more comedy shows. I've done Alamo before. That was always a good success. So just keep doing, stay local in the city and
but okay,
provide laughter.
So, and I don't, we don't let anybody off easy, and I would grill anybody this way. But so, beside producing a comedy show,
yes,
which may bring people temporary relief and release stress. I think laughing is always good. But we're talking about for the quality of life of the residents of Yonkers. How will you make that better for those people? Like, there's 500 people that was almost about to be laid off. They're mothers and fathers. They, got kids and can lose their houses and stuff. And, there's other things going on. There's a big homelessness problem in Yonkers.
Gentrification.
Gentrification. All of this stuff. So, and I hear you talk about comedy, and I understand that's your specialty. But to run for mayor, you're going to have to speak to these issues. You know what I'm saying? Like, a joke is not going to help you with. So, do you have any idea of what you would do or how to challenge any of these problems?
Of course. Like I said, come so the day happens and I do lose or I don't win, whatever. I'm not gonna go for district leader or whatnot or attempt any more into the political region.
Why? Why not?
I feel this is like the only thing I really want to do. So it's like if I don't win, I will help out in other ways. Like I definitely do more, be more active in the community. But this is my one go time in politics. If I don't win, then I applaud you for being young and running, but because you're young, like you have many more chances. I'm not saying run into the next election, but you have many more chances to get involved in the political process at another level. So I would hope that you wouldn't give up. If you really feel like you can change the system, that you would actually
be part of it.
Yeah. Now Damon said, "Love you, man, but producing comedy shows is not community service. Just blame Mayor Thomas for the hard questions." LOL.
Right. And listen, and that just to amplify what Damon has said. We are all very reluctant to, in any way, give an uncritical endorsement of candidates who appear on the show precisely because we had a young, promising mayor in the city of Mount Vernon.
Who was the future of black politics.
Yeah, made same promises.
Was representing
let
hope.
him finish.
Yeah, who came in, and I mean, we're saying the same thing.
Yeah.
Who came in with a plan on how he was going to do, who made promises, who we worked with. And he not only made promises publicly, he made promises to us privately on what he was going to do and how he was going to handle, which increased why we worked with him. And literally, we feel we got burnt and we got let down. And he gave hope to a lot of people that never had hope before. And I don't know if he's delivered on that promise to a lot of them. And there's a lot of people that may never vote again because they were first-time voters that came out to try to make a difference. You know what I'm saying? So, again, go ahead, Bob. I just wanted to add that.
No, I was just, and therefore, Brother Robinson, we would be remiss in our duty to our viewers and to the larger public here in Westchester County if we didn't ask you very sharp, pointed questions about why you want to run, what kind of policies you intend to implement, and things of that kind.
And if Spano ever comes on the show, I'm going to be asking him, we're going to question things that he didn't do or did do and what he's going to do. Why should we vote for you? Why should you be voted in again? I'm going to, you know what I'm saying? Why should the people vote for you again when they feel Salat is a group of people that feel like you let them down? This is going to be for we're going to ask Joe why he's running for office when he comes in here. He's getting a little preview sitting outside. But, you got to ask the politicians. It's our job to present the people that are running and ask them the questions that these people don't have a chance to actually ask you one-on-one. So when it comes to the day, they can make informed decisions. Now, coming out early, and the election's not till next year, I think there's a lot that you can learn and you can surround yourself around people. And I hope that you accept that my suggestion. I think as of right now, and this will be honest, I got to keep it real. Right now, the election was July. If it was this November, I don't see it happening because you know what I'm saying. You haven't presented a plan. You haven't presented. You're gonna have to tell people some stuff that you're gonna do why they should vote for you. But being that you got a whole year, there's plenty of time for you to learn.
Then you gotta make money.
Of course,
right. There's plenty of time for you to learn the political process, to study the issues that really plague this city. And I say this again, this is out of encouragement because I wish more young people would run for office. You know what I'm saying? So I applaud you just for...
Hold on.
What?
Yo, I got to say something, because I knew I wasn't bugging over here.
What?
I seen you before.
Okay. Damon asked the question. We asked a lot of people. We've had, educators on and library trustees on, and we like to throw a question. And it tells a lot about a person. Damon said to ask you, what is the last book that you read?
A Child Called It.
Now, what is that? Who's it by? What is that?
It's by Dave Peltzer. It's about a young boy who was he was going through a lot of abusive relationship with his parent. Well, actually, his mom used to beat him. His dad was basically an alcoholic who left a picture, and his mother would put ammonia in the bathroom and make him clean the bathroom with ammonia in the air and just abusive relationship.
So it was a book on abusive
It's a book.
relationship.
It's a book.
Survival of abusive relationship or something?
He actually got married later on in life and then went through an abusive relationship with his wife. But A Child Called It. It's been out for a while. This was the last book I just decided to read.
What's the book before that? Let me get it. Do you remember?
Book before that, I don't read as much as I should. I have a lot. There's a lot of books I've read, just not recently because I've been,
Well, I mean, the last book you read, it could be 5 years ago. The last book you remember reading beyond that. Go ahead, Loraine.
No, I had a question, but it had nothing to do with books.
Okay, go ahead.
Who's the chair of the Yonkers Democratic Party?
The chair of the Yonkers Democratic Party?
Yeah.
That's Shelley Mayer.
Shelley Mayer is the chair of the Yonkers Democratic
Oh
Party.
no. I'm not a career. I don't know this much as yet. I'm a little behind on that. All right, I give it at that.
Can I suggest that you have a whole year to go?
Yeah.
You start as district leader, and work your way up to mayor. I mean, you could do that in a year. But you need to get involved from the bottom to work your way up to the top. If you're going to do it this quickly, you got to jump in and you got to start doing something. You can't answer the questions like saying what you're saying. I don't want to sound...
No. I totally get you.
Okay.
So, Brother Robinson, let me ask you a question. Even if your policy proposals are not very clearly formulated as of yet, and that's okay, what kind of steps have you been taking to mobilize some of the excluded segments of the Yonkers electorate who might be especially receptive to an insurgent candidacy like you're proposing? You've been meeting with people. We want to hear, out on the streets. I mean, because here, this is an important forum that will allow you to get in touch with people who might be discontented with the current, political system here in Yonkers. But I'm sure you're reaching out to other to people in other ways as well. Why don't you tell us a little something about that?
I'm actually in New York the city most of the time. So when I'm out there, I deal with Holt Newsom. He's the president of Black Lives Matter Greater New York, and he has a law degree, and he pushes a lot of from district attorneys. So he guides me in many ways. He guides me in many ways, and once he found out that he asked me, the first thing he said, so he hits me up on Instagram. He says, "Oh, so you're just gonna run for mayor out of nowhere?" And he laughed. He joked, he joked with me as well. But this is something I'm serious about doing. I'm looking into setting up a building.
PAC?
No, actually like a campaign spot. Somewhere on McLean Avenue, and I'm already looking into things like that. I have people behind me in Yonkers already, and in the city mostly. But I'm gearing toward looking into younger voters as well, like from 18 to 26, getting on the young voters. That's the goal.
So your intention is to run on a Democratic primary for...
Yes.
Yes. Okay, to run against Spano. So that means that Soon you'll have to launch your petition signature gathering drive.
Yes.
Next summer. Yeah.
Can I just say that
I'm sorry, next summer.
Yeah.
That's right. No wonder.
Yeah.
Tasha Diaz,
I was getting ready to say, go ahead, you read that.
Tasha Diaz, well, she just happens to be the secretary for the Yonkers Democratic Party, and she's listening on, and she said to let you know that Tom Meyer is the person in charge.
Okay.
But she also made a comment that says if you don't know who the chairman is, that's not a good start.
So I want to say this, too. Let me just say this before we get into crucifying and anything. Yo,
I didn't crucify him.
Not you.
Oh,
I'm
because
just
I was
saying
going to say. You,
before all
I
the,
got it when
all
I
the
ran.
comments
I got
outside-
it when I ran,
Wait,
and I won. So
But all the comments that are coming in,
by the way, for that.
and I just want to say, I would like to, like, between now and next summer, before the petition process starts, before you were gathering signatures, one thing Damon said, and to add to it, he said you have to learn the process, read books, and then run on it. I would like to add to it, you need to find out who your predecessors, who the people that had the position before, what they did, what they did that was strong, what they did that was weak. You have to look at their positions on certain things, and this can be doable. And the other thing is, a lot of people go into situations. Most people, no one is prepared to be president when they run. Like nobody, there's not a class that you take to be president. You know what I'm saying, or any other position. But
we
surrounding yourself, as we see,
Yeah.
surrounding yourself, and especially is a good example, surrounding yourself with competent people to advise you. You understand what I'm saying? They get behind you. Yo, I think you can be a strong candidate, and I think within a year you can learn. And I'd like to see that fire that you had that I see on social media, to be honest, which is why I invited you on the show. I think it's early to come out and know you wasn't really prepared, but I'd like to invite you back on the show next year before the process of the petition and see how you have grown and see how much you have learned and see what you've done. If you've taken any of our suggestions, you understand what I'm saying?
We'll be so proud.
And look at what these people, the people are saying. Don't take it as a hate or anything or whatever. Take it as constructive criticism and build on that. Because you're going to have to debate. At some point, you're going to have to, if it's Spano, you're going to have to sit in the table with him, and he knows the issues. And the Spanos are career politicians, and they know how to run, do that whole thing, to running for office. You're going to have to go against that. Plus, let's be real, there is the color factor. You know what I'm saying? You're African American running for a position that no African American has ever held. You know what I'm saying? And let's not think that systematic racism does not exist. You know what I'm saying? So you got that against you as well. Then you have your age against you. And not to beat up on Mayor Thomas, but he was that young candidate. You know what I'm saying? That showed hope. That was reaching out to the people saying, who they were saying that he wasn't ready. But he was saying it was time to step up and we needed new leadership. And a lot of people ran with that, and he didn't deliver on that level. So you have examples in the neighboring city right next to you of what's going on. I mean, you read the paper, you see what's going on.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So you have those things against you. That was a young black man, you know what I'm saying, who's not doing.
Can I add one thing, though?
Go ahead.
I would rather lose to somebody who's more deserving than to win to somebody who's not,
And another thing that I wanted, and this is for everybody who's ever thinking about possibly running for office. You know what? Losing is not always the worst thing in the world. But if you can challenge the candidate at them debates and make him answer questions on topics that he's not addressing, you know what I'm saying? And you get a certain amount of support, you know what I'm saying? He's going to have to look at, like, all these people supported and he ran on these things. He's going, if he got any sense, him or her, whoever the person is, they're going to have to take some of that. Look at Hillary Clinton on the national level. She started talking all of that. She beat she beat Bernie Sanders, but she had to take in some of the things because he has so many supporters. So she had to start talking some of that. You understand what I'm saying? So they look at the numbers and they look at all of the stuff, and losing is not, but make it count, though. challenge the issues, know what the issues are, know what's not being done for our people, for the minorities in Yonkers, and speak to that. And you have plenty of time to learn. Paul Anthony, what's his last name? Say his last name again.
Cuesta.
He said, "Great to see Prince inspiring the next generation to step up for involvement in local governance. I know that sadly, I know people that sadly cannot name city council or mayor. That is true."
And Tasha also responded. She said she's not trying to criticize you in any way. She just wants to let you know that it's a hard process, so you have to get to know what positions certain people play.
And Damon, we didn't hear the phone ring, so...
you know who had a good suggestion? Oscar Davis. He said maybe he should help a candidate get elected and learn the process while he's at it. Get involved in a race.
I'm not trying to talk you out of running if that's what you want to do. But because of your age, you do have time. And it may be better, and that's something you got to talk to with your people that support you, and you have to come to terms with it on your own. You have to think, is it good to run now? And if you feel that's what you want to do, then you better be prepared. You better do everything you need to be prepared. Or wait 4 years. Support another candidate who speaks to some of the things you want to speak to. Get involved. Learn the process. You know what I'm saying? Go to them city council meetings. See what the issues that the people care about. Do all of that. And then in 4 years, what you with 26 or 27?
27.
So you'll be 31. You still would be younger than Mayor Thomas was when he ran. You know what I'm saying? So you got time. So don't feel you have to rush into it. But again, I'm not trying to talk you out of it. But that's something you need to consider.
Definitely will do.
And I'm going to say, brother, you have a whole year to prepare yourself, both in terms of important public policy issues and possible solutions, and also to prepare your team. So,
and hold fundraisers.
So
yeah, because
I want to encourage you to continue.
Right, because you got to be able to tell people how to. You want them to come out their pockets for some money, because you
make money.
First off, you're going to need money to run, but you're running against a Spano. Let's you know what I'm saying? They know how to raise money, and they have a lot of connections. So let's not. You better be prepared. You're running against a Spano. Even if people are tired,
he might not be. It's supposed.
Oh well, but
it doesn't.
Right, you might not be, but you better be prepared to run against a Spano. And you better be able to be prepared to run against his record. What are you going to do differently than he has done? Even if he doesn't run, you're going to have to speak to those issues. So that's my advice. I wish you well. I thank you for coming, because first off, coming on this show, like going on the stage, I used to be a recording artist, so going out on stage of any kind is always you nervous when you come out. So coming to this show, it takes a lot of courage.
We applaud you, yes.
I applaud every young person to get more involved in politics. Maybe running for mayor might not be the first thing you do. Maybe for some people it will be district leader. Maybe for some people it'll be legislator. Maybe for some people, and that's what Brenda Crump just said. She also said you have to learn the Yonkers city government.
I'm working on the charter right now. I'm looking at the charter every single day.
And then she made suggestions. Maybe start out as a district leader, school board member, council member, legislator, etc. And
work your way up.
It would be good to identify a good candidate that you might have like-minded views of, support him for mayor and run as city council, because I know there's got to be some seats up that year too. You know what I'm saying? So that might be a way to go. You know what I'm saying? And again, these are just suggestions from us. We're not running. We're not Prince Robinson. I can't. You have to make the decisions. But again, I just want to, and I really want to say you have a year. And if you still running and you still want to run in a year, I want you to come back, and I want to see how prepared. That's going to show me for real how serious you are. I would say this to any young person. You know what I'm saying? Do the work. Learn. You know what I'm saying? I think this might be a good experience, because you're going to have to go on other shows. They're not going to look like us, and you're going to have to deal with press that don't look like us, and they're going to be coming at you already to shoot you down. You're going to have to be ready. You're going to have to be ready for that. You know what I'm saying? So I want to see how you grow. I want you to come back in a year. I hope that you do some of the things that I suggest. Tanya Diaz said, even in this comment she made, she said, I applaud him as well. It takes a lot of courage. You know what I'm saying? So she's saying this. So people are encouraging you. And you got to understand, you're also, as somebody said, you're also going to be the inspiration why other young people step up, or the reason other young people do not step up. When you step into that, and if you're not, you know what I'm saying, and it don't look right, they like, oh, hell, I ain't going to do it. You know what I'm saying? So
can I just add one last thing, though?
Absolutely.
So I hate to mix the comedy and the politics, but when I first started comedy, I was 15, right? Mm-hmm. And Charlie Murphy, he said that, rest in peace to Charlie Murphy. He said the first time he saw my act, he wouldn't want to book me, you know. And that was like for the first, he came to my show about 12 times. The first 12 times he came to my show, always said no. So then 2 years later, the next time he ran into me, you know, then he was like, oh, come open for me. So it's like I work hard when I'm dedicated to something. So this is I won't let you guys down. I'm gonna do my work.
I'm glad you used that example because, and I say this to a lot of our youth, if you're trying to go, talk to people who have been where you're trying to go. You know what I'm saying? That have done it well.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to them, learn from them. You know what I'm saying? There's some elders in the Yonkers community. I mean, I'm sure Loraine could name them for you, who you might need to sit down between this time and next year and learn from. You know what I'm saying? And prepare yourself, because you're trying to do something. You're not recreating the wheel. You know what I'm saying? There's always been mayors. There's always been whatever. You might want to learn from somebody who's done it well. Or even if they're not, you learn that you read their story, or you study them and see what it is they did that made them great, or what made some of them not great. So you replicate the good stuff and incorporate. I always tell Bob, I'm from the hip-hop era. I'm from the sample era. You know what I'm saying? We take things from all different pieces and we put them together and come up with something great. That's what made great hip-hop. You know what I'm saying? So I'm saying sample from the great ones, or whoever did it well. Look at the ones that didn't do it well. Why didn't they do it well? Be like, yo, and incorporate that into who Prince Robinson is, and come out here next year with some fire, with some answers, with some platforms, with, you know what I'm saying, and be ready.
I have platforms. I just don't have the answers.
Well,
right
what tell me a platform.
BLMNY, Black Lives Matter, Greater New York. That's like one of my biggest supporters right now. They have people mobilized in all of Westchester, New York City, that are definitely helping me out with this campaign.
Now I'm gonna let you. I have to be honest though.
Yes.
Because I saw that you were affiliated with them, I expected you to come out addressing more social justice issues in Yonkers. I expected you to, and that's just my expectation. I expected you because you're running with them, and that's what they deal with. You know what I'm saying?
I wanted to comment on it earlier. Like, the thing is, I know I live in Yonkers, but being a part of the movement, I've been actually geared in the city a little bit more. So I've actually sat in on the Deborah Dana case, and you guys are familiar with Deborah Dana, right?
I am not.
She was a 66-year-old senior citizen who was murdered by Sergeant Hugh Barry, and let's just say the chief of the PBA chief of Yonkers, he was one of the people that was support in this act. So it's like, there were things I wanted to touch on, but I really don't want, I didn't want to really get too heavy into the story, and that's,
Okay, well, I that's one of the things I would definitely suggest, because, you got Black Lives Matter with you, but go ahead.
I want to say something. Prince, you're right. You do have the Black Lives Matters movement is a platform that upon which your candidacy is based. It's providing staff. When AJ put the question to you, what is your platform? He didn't mean the organizational vehicle you were using. He meant the policy platform that is going to be the centerpiece of your administration.
And
should you
and
be
that
elected.
would be social justice and why.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? So
Gotcha.
That's what. And I'll talk to you more. Like, there's some stuff I'll say to you offline. You know what I'm saying? I have no problem. You call me anytime. Reach out to me. But and those are my suggestions. I know we have another candidate here. I want to give you a chance for any last words. For anybody who's seen anything, wants to know more about you, wants to get in touch with you, social media? How do they reach you? You know, and so everybody will know.
Well, first I want to thank Black Westchester for having me. Thank you, AJ. Thank you, Bob, and thank you, Loraine. On Instagram it's Prince for Mayor, and Twitter it's PR for Yonkers. Prince Robinson 2019 is the hashtag that I'm going to be using for the campaign, and that's pretty much it.
You don't have a website yet, right? Or do you?
It's being created as we speak right now.
Okay. So, any last words? Like, just what your parting words? What do you want to say to the people? What you want to say?
It's gonna be a greater Yonkers. That's the slogan I'm going with. A greater Yonkers. If you give me that chance, I'll prove it.
What does that mean to you? A greater Yonkers.
A greater Yonkers. Okay, utilizing some more spots and areas like maybe Getty Square have that instead of see a lot of things go on in that area that you really don't want to see on a daily basis. So take advantage of that. Make it like they did it like 2 or 3 weeks ago. They had a little music gathering, but maybe do it a little bit more, and imply different kinds of genres of music, and have that as a more of a center where people could just come around and have that as an attraction area.
Okay.
That's good.
Well, like I said, we grilled you because we the first one, so we have to grill you. And
thank you.
But we still encourage you, and again,
and applaud you.
And again, I want to give you that year, and that's going to show me how serious you are, and that's going to show a lot of other people how serious you are. And we want to bring you back next year before collecting petitions, and see what you've taken from this experience, what you've learned that you don't now know. That's going to show me for real, this dude's really serious. Or you just, a lot of people just talking to be talking. And I want to give you that opportunity. So I'm glad we had this opportunity to do this first, a year before it was necessary. Now, if this was the year and it was you still were answering the questions like that.
You guys would have kicked me out the show.
You wouldn't have to worry about us. There'd be a lot of people would be nobody, that's not going to happen. You know what I'm saying? So.
How many signatures do you need to get on the ballot?
It's 5,000, right?
5,000?
Yeah, it's 5,000. It should be 5,000.
Okay.
All right, well, I want to say to the audience members, though.
Go ahead.
Like any new leader, or would-be new leader, Brother Prince is very much a work in progress, and I want... No, and I say this because we do not come fully formed. And so he has shown a tremendous amount of courage by even appearing on the show, and I like to encourage everyone to continue to track his progress and seriously consider giving him support, should he prove to be promising and get behind some of the issues that we're all concerned about.
Yes.
Absolutely. Prince Robinson, running for mayor of Yonkers 2019. Could be the youngest in history to be elected. Huh?
First black.
First African American and the youngest in history of to be elected. I mean, that make history both ways. And because of that, you got to come. I had this conversation with Andre Rainey. He's young. He comes from the hip-hop background. You know what I'm saying? And he won the election. And I was like, yo, they're going to be more critical on you because you're the first black, because you're younger, and because Westchester has seen the Richard Thomas situation, which was that young, black, promising candidate. So you're going to have the eyes not just on the eyes of Westchester Democrats, black Democrats, the eyes of the world. You're going to be judged more critical. You're even younger than they were. You understand what I'm saying? So there's going to be a lot, like you when you run this, it's going to be a lot on your shoulders. You're going to be carrying the future, the hope for the future generation. You know what I'm saying? So, and they're going to be more critical on you than they may have been on Spano and other people because you're black and you're young. You know what I'm saying? So with that, I applaud you for coming. I applaud you for running. I applaud you for being bold enough to even consider getting involved, because most people your age, even including me, was not thinking about running for nothing. I was running to the latest spot where the girls were.
Running the streets.
Yeah, running the street. I wasn't thinking about no politics.
Well, that's all we're going to talk about now.
And changing my community. So that being that at that age, that's a plus. And I hope you understand that.
Definitely,
and how important that is. And I applaud you. And again, we'll talk offline anytime. And anybody I can help, bring to you or whatever, any questions you have and we may be at a point in two separate directions. But we're going to make a date I'll give you a date.
Next Father's Day.
Well, maybe before Father's Day,
Okay.
but next year around this time to see where you are.
Thank you.
So once again, this is Prince Robinson running for mayor of Yonkers. Thank you, sir, for coming through.
My brother, we look forward to having you back on the show, man.
So again, like we said, he is a young candidate, a young person trying to get involved. I applaud him on that level. Again, I can't stress enough. I was in the music business. I was running around. I wasn't thinking about no politics, no making my community better, none of that.
I was a community organizer at that age.
And that's good. And that's why you went and got where you got in politics. That was just not my goal. You know what I'm saying? And so at young people, and I try to get more young people to get involved, again, on whatever level. You know what I'm saying? Learn what a district leader is. Run for that. You know what I'm saying? You got your library trustees, you got your school board trustees, you got several other things you can do in your community. Get involved somewhere, whatever your passion is, and help make your city better. And with that said, like I said, we're dealing with all Yonkers today. We have another Yonkers candidate, and people always say, "Oh, you don't have no Republicans on there." Once we've had several, and Loraine being our resident Republican, always tries to, we got to get more Republicans on. So she actually introduced me to who you were. And we had our photographer come through and take pictures, and
that
we
was
ran
definitely a blessing. I appreciate you guys.
Shout to Shane. I've not shouted him out. We have a new photographer, Shane Samuels, who is holding it down. Another Yonkers. He lives in Yonkers now. He's making us look good. He covered your campaign, your fundraiser. He covered your competitions fundraiser. He covered Andre Wallace's golf outing and several other events that Shane, I'm still waiting for pictures on so we can get them in the paper. But if you're listening. But with that said, Loraine, introduce our next guest.
Oh, we have Joe PINION here, who's running for Shelley's Myers' former seat at the Assembly. Is it what district
so it's
is
the
it?
90th district.
90th district.
Running for all the people of Yonkers.
Well, first off and foremost, we have to give you official people before politics welcome. There you go.
But I think that
I'm going to ask you a question first that has nothing to do. Do you write? Are you a writer? No, because I would love. I've been looking for somebody that I can get. I want a piece for Black Westchester, being Black and Republican in Westchester County.
I would love something.
I would love that. I would love that perspective.
Be more than happy.
Okay, I want that. So
he made me too.
We'll talk offline.
Absolutely. So, welcome to the show.
Good to be here.
I think the district covers more than just Yonkers, right?
No, so it's one of the few districts, one of actually 5 districts outside of New York City in the state that are self-contained in one municipality. So our campaign is Believe in Yonkers, because again, it's no matter what part of Yonkers you live in, people in Albany can't draw a line on the map to determine where opportunity ends and where despair begins. And so here, we're trying to make sure that we're understanding that, yes, I'm running to be the assembly person for the 90th district, which is about 75% of Yonkers. But really, let's be very clear that the issues that affect the southwest portion of Yonkers are very much entwined with the things that are affecting the opportunity for people living in the northeast. And so again, we're running under a One Yonkers banner, a Believe in Yonkers banner, to understand that it's time for the people of Yonkers to choose themselves.
Before we go, I stand corrected, and I always say I don't know everything, and when somebody points it out, I said Andre Rainey, who was the youngest mayor. I also said he was the first Black mayor. I have been corrected by Oscar Davis that Richard E. Jackson Jr. was actually the first Black mayor of Peekskill. So I stand corrected officially, and apologize to the fans and the supporters of Richard E. Jackson. But go ahead. I just wanted to make that correction.
No, absolutely.
Yeah. So why are you running? Who are you? Wait, Bob.
Yeah, before we continue.
Bob.
Before we even
continue.
continue.
That's Dr. Bob.
Before we even continue.
Okay.
I feel obligated. Quite honestly, I have to say it's a pleasure and a privilege in many respects,
as long as you ain't
to
getting
have
ready to
this
break
brother
me
as a guest
Okay.
in our studio, because when I initially saw him enter the studio, I thought I recognized him, and then I did a very quick search, and this brother has I know him because I've seen him on CNN. I see him on CNN all the time. He's actually a national commentator, and I think it's worth pointing out because one of the things that impressed me about the discussions that you've been involved with on CNN and other national news networks is the seriousness with which you have been able to lay out a Republican or conservative position to support a lot of the policies that you've been advocating.
Well,
And I do want to say that because I was quite impressed with you, brother.
Bob doesn't say that often, so that's a big deal.
I'm sitting here in awe.
Look, man, just call all your friends in Yonkers. Tell them to come on out in November.
I mean, I'm neither a Republican nor conservative.
Actually, he's a Yonkers resident, though.
I am. I'm neither a Republican nor conservative, but
we need all the votes.
Brother Pinion has been able to articulate the conservative philosophy, the underpinnings of Republican and conservative philosophy that many people are unaware of, and I was impressed when I saw him doing it online, and especially with the integrity, because you have appeared vis-a-vis, with a number of other black Republican conservative commentators, and I have to say that they have not acquitted themselves nearly as well as you. So I think it's a real pleasure, brother.
But I'm happy to be here, and like I said, you are far too kind. But to kind of segue into why you said why I'm running, I think that I don't have to do this, right? And I'll start off by saying that life is pretty good. Right, I got the opportunity to go on national television, to do podcasts, to write op-eds about the things. I've been fortunate enough to be one of the national spokesmen for Republican.org with the energy initiative out of George Mason University, talking about climate change, talking about making sure that we're having a clean energy jobs, leveraging free market principles here in America, because America should be the leader in clean energy jobs here around the world. I've been able to go on, like I said, been able to go on CNN, been able to go on on TV One when Roland Martin, all these different opportunities that have been a true blessing. And so it was really great to be able to talk about the issues that I care about, the issues that are affecting my community, particularly communities of color. But it got to the point when you start looking around where you come from. I'm born and raised in Yonkers, lived in Yonkers my whole life, and the reality is that if we don't deal with some of these imminent threats to opportunity here in Yonkers today, we're not going to have the opportunity to fix them even 2 years from now. And so there are a lot of issues that when I looked at what was happening, that were imminent. When you're talking about school funding, when you start talking about how do we, even the taxation that we have here in Yonkers, where Yonkers pays more in taxes than Buffalo, Rochester, and Syracuse combined. All of these things that are potentially up for renegotiation in this and only this term. You couple that with the fact that my mother, who raised me, retired about 2 years ago. I'm the only child, and all of a sudden, I say you start getting these strange text messages in the middle of the night from a woman who can barely text, saying that I don't know how we're going to pay these property taxes, or I don't know if we're going to be able to stay here, or I think we're going to have to cut back on whatever because we have to find the resources to make sure that we have the long-term care bill for my grandmother who just turned 98 yesterday.
Happy birthday.
So happy birthday to her. But so again, when I look at the things that are happening within my own family. And then juxtapose that what's happening for families all across Yonkers, and really all across Westchester, but particularly in Yonkers, because again, everything is on a bigger scale in Yonkers, because Yonkers is the largest city in Westchester, fourth largest city in the state.
Right.
It just became apparent to me that nobody was walking through that door. That we had an incumbent who had been there for the better part of 6 years, had failed to deliver any additional funding, not a single additional penny, in municipal aid for the city over that period of time. Was a bunch of issues that just really weren't being dealt with, and was really there unopposed. With many of the seats in Yonkers just being unopposed, and so to me, it felt that somebody had to step up. Somebody needed to present these issues, talk about the issues that were affecting people in Yonkers across ethnic lines, across racial lines, across socioeconomic boundaries, and just say that we're just not being treated fairly. And if we can start with that basic premise, understanding that Yonkers is not being treated fairly, then we can begin to solve the problem. And I think that we were dealing with a lot of individuals who either had held seats or are now currently running with seats, who either are unwilling to identify the problem, or also unwilling to hold the people who allowed us to get in that position responsible. And that was why, in a very roundabout way, how I arrived at the decision to say that, I think I must do this for my family and also for the city that I love.
Absolutely. Loraine?
Are you going to have it? Do you have a primary?
No. So we are the only person on the Republican line and probably conservative line right now that's running. And so obviously we're going to have the opportunity to take our message to the people. I mean, again, I think our slogan is believe in Yonkers. Our thesis is that Yonkers has invested in the state of New York. The state of New York has not invested in Yonkers. And I think that issue by issue, it doesn't matter how you approach it, you see that theme, that recurring theme rear its ugly head. When you talk about the fact that we have a casino that contributes more money to the state education fund than Mega Millions and Powerball combined, right? And yet we're literally 19th on the list of direct dollar recipients for those lottery payments, even though we're the 4th largest city. And again, we are the host of those things. The Empire Casino contributes more money than 6 of the 8 racinos combined to the state education fund. And yet again, we are handcuffed with this pittance of resources, getting 5%, while the state gets 80%. I think it's well documented. We had this annual recurring.
Wait, the city gets 5%.
As a host city, we're entitled to the 5% of the allocation. Mm-hmm. The state gets 80% of those resources. You have the surrounding counties that get about they get 5%, and you get the county that gets 10%. And so again, when you start looking at the fact that even this year, Yonkers is looking at anywhere on the combined municipal and school side to close to a $30 million budget deficit. Meanwhile, the casino's spitting out about $23 million for us out of that 5% allocation. If we were getting 7.5%, getting 8%, just getting 10%, even to say that, hey, let's the city split the difference with the county. Let us get a larger lion's share of dollars that are originated in Yonkers. We wouldn't have these budget deficits. So again, issue by issue, you start saying that what people keep coming up with quote unquote formulas, but every single formula that they derive seems to find a way to give us less of the dollars that we are putting in.
We've dealt with homelessness a lot on the show. We had somebody. Terrible. You already know. We had somebody who's from Yonkers, who's a homelessness advocate, who at the time was homeless herself and is not now.
Was Kate you're talking about?
Laura Case.
Yeah,
so she's actually written several articles on homelessness in Yonkers and homelessness in Westchester, and even educated me. There's a growing number of working homeless people that have 9-to-5 jobs. Their kids are going to school every day, but they don't have a place to live, and they're living in shelters and stuff, which I didn't know existed.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And traditionally, Republicans in Westchester, one of the richest counties, don't like to acknowledge that we have a homelessness problem in Westchester.
Well, I'll take it a step further. I don't think it's a partisan issue. I think it's a bureaucratic issue. The dirty secret that we have here in Westchester is that the county of Westchester and the city of Yonkers have been engaged in what I call a secret, mutual non-aggression pact to basically get the homeless population of Westchester County and Yonkers to self-deport. Right, that is what we're talking about, zoning laws in Yonkers. You start talking about the laws on the books in Westchester that say that if you're a homeless person, that you have to literally be paying in to your actual care. When you start talking about how do you actually be able to be in a shelter, well, you have to be actually taking the money that you are actually making if you are one of those working homeless people and literally turning that money over to Westchester County, which makes absolutely zero sense, because the fastest way to get someone back on their feet is to allow them to keep the resources that they actually have coming in. If God willing, they're actually a self-sufficient member of the homeless population, to be able to say, how can I get you faster back into a home? How can I allow you to be able to get to work, to and fro, and be able to keep that job and not be able to be resource deficient? In Yonkers, we've had, this kind of iteration of zoning laws that, again, have forced places that are in downtown Yonkers, which ironically, or you could say perniciously, also happens to be the place we're trying to redevelop, to all of a sudden be forced to cut the hours of homeless services because, okay, now we've done such redevelopment, the zoning laws have changed so that homeless people cannot be in these areas from the hours of 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., right? So where are they going to go? Mm-hmm. You start talking about access to showers where, you have access to showers at the at the Yonkers bathhouse every Tuesday, except it's not every Tuesday, it's sporadically whenever they choose to have it on those Tuesdays.
One of the shelters didn't have showers. I know people are complaining they didn't have showers.
They don't have showers, right? Yeah. And then again, people are forced to go to this where they have the bathhouse. Well, guess what? The bathhouse, we all know, is literally about 1.5 miles from downtown, where all the bulk of the homeless people are. So you're asking people to literally do what? Hop on the 7 bus with the money they don't have to try to make it up to take a shower, or you're talking about having people to try to push a shopping cart, 1.5 miles to a bathhouse on a Tuesday, only to find out that that particular Tuesday it's not open. So again, I think that this is what we're talking about, and I think again, I always say that it's important for us to be able to focus on who is responsible for what aspect of your misery, right? And so what I mean by that is saying that we have a lot of politicians, particularly in Westchester, that spend their entire days and night pontificating about issues that actually they have zero purview over, right? They're sitting there talking about things in D.C. that you should be concerned about because it's impacting our lives. They're sitting here complaining about stuff that your congressman hasn't done. But let's be very clear. Your assemblyman has no authority over any gun laws in D.C. Your assemblyman has no purview or authority over anything that's being done in Albany with regards to Con Edison, right? So when I got to sit around and watch, my county executive and a whole bunch of county legislators sit around talking about Con Edison is terrible and hold 3-hour marathon sessions where they talk about they can bang on tables, when the reality is, my brothers and my sisters, you have absolutely no authority over this entity. And so why don't we focus on the things you actually do have control over? So that's my challenge right now in this election, to get people to understand that there are things that have not been done by the individuals who are responsible for doing them for you. And it's very easy to believe that they're doing their job because they spend their entire days and nights talking about things that you are opposed to, but yet they have no power to control.
I want to wow, you said a lot of stuff.
Now everyone knows why this brother is so well qualified. he fast, brother.
We try to use it as a form of education too. So a lot of people don't know what an assembly person does. Correct. Or is. So what is an assembly person?
Right. And so I always try to make the comparison that you have the New York State Legislature, which is responsible for the laws of the state and the funding of the state, right? Collectively, we call that governance. But basically, you sign off on the laws and you sign off on how things get paid at the state level. You have, the state Senate is to the U.S. Senate as the Assembly is to the House of Representatives in D.C., right?
So that's a good example.
Right, as an example, right? We have a governor, the country has a president. We have state senators, the country has U.S. senators. We have Congress, we have state assembly members, the U.S. government has congressmen and congresswomen, right? So that is kind of the composition, right? That I have the opportunity to represent 130,000 constituents in Yonkers for the ability to advocate effectively for how things get paid for and what portion of the allotment of those dollars, comes back to Yonkers. The opportunity to say that there are laws that we have here in Yonkers that from everything from healthcare to gun laws to, to how do we fund our schools, to making sure that, are we going to have facilities for homeless people? Are we going to any number, anything that you could think of that relates to the people? Those are the things that you can do at the state legislature level.
To answer a question, Brenda L. Crump, she's our resident. She holds us down. Anytime we talked about Loraine Case, she put Loraine Case's author box from Black Westchester with a link, and we talked about the book that the young man was talking about. She put the link up. She asked to say your name again, is Joe or Joseph Pinion?
So it's Joe Pinion, as in opinion without the L, basically. So it's just
okay. There you go. I was gonna read from the thing, but you just
P-I-N-I-O-N. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And she's gonna probably look something up and post it in a minute because that's what she does. Bob, any questions?
So, Joe, like most Republicans, you take the position that one of the primary the primary solution for many of the problems that we face is a return to free market principles.
Right.
And with respect to something like housing.
Right.
Well, for one, and you're not at all unfamiliar with this, those who identify themselves as progressives would argue that one of the real root causes of many of the problems that we're having is the ordinary operations of the capitalist system.
Right.
But I'd like to ask you, what do you think is the primary threat to the proper operations of free market principles in the city of Yonkers, and how is that undermining our ability to solve problems like the homeless problem that we're
I think that, I take a step back. I think that when you start talking about partisan ideology, conservative, liberal, all those things, I think that in many ways, 9 out of 10 times, you're talking about a national message. Right now, the issues that are affecting Yonkers are not partisan. Right, we're talking about decades of mismanagement. I often say, the issues that have plagued Yonkers for literally my entire life. We're talking about the last 35 years. We've gone from one Governor Cuomo to the next, with a Republican governor in between. It doesn't seem to matter. Perpetually, Yonkers gets the short end of the stick.
Yes.
That is just what happens.
Yep.
And so, at some point, as a people, irrespective of your political sensibilities, you have to take a step back and say, how is this happening? Right? How is it that in Yonkers you've had not to pile on, because again, like I said, it's not partisan, but if we're talking about just the balls and strikes, we've had a rock solid Democratic delegation in Yonkers, going back the last 12 years. You're talking about the fact that in that time period, we've had Shelley Meyer, who is a wonderful woman. I've done a lot of work with her. She's gotten now a promotion and a raise. You've had Andrea Stewart-Cousins, who everyone loves, has gotten a promotion and a raise. George Latimer has gotten a promotion and a raise. And Yonkers has literally not gotten a single additional dime in municipal aid. That is just the facts. These are facts. These are not opinions. These are facts.
Yep.
Right? And so when you start looking at it from that standpoint, when you start looking at the fact that we've got fire unions, teacher unions, and police unions that have given close to combined, when you add in the dollars they've given from their unions and actual personal donations from members of those unions, close to $250,000 to politicians in Yonkers that have been unopposed, have had no opponents, right? And literally as of Thursday night at midnight went to bed facing pink slips. I don't care where you're from. Where I'm from, we call that a con, right? And so on some basic level, this is not about, there's no Republican or Democratic way to make sure that Yonkers gets more than 70 cents on the dollar to make sure that we can build new schools. There's no Republican or Democratic way to make sure that Yonkers can say, my goodness, how is it possible that, again, we had a federal lawsuit that came here in 1980 that said that we had segregation in our public schools, segregation in our public housing, right? And the compromise for that was to levy a personal income tax on the people of Yonkers in 1984. And you go from 1984 to present, my entire life, we still have budget deficits year after year after year, and our schools are more segregated today than they were when the federal government sued us. So clearly these things are not working, right? And so again, I say that's not partisan. Right, that has nothing to do with the letter next to your name. That has everything to do with the zip code in which you live. And if we as a city can just get together to understand that we have not been treated fairly, and these individuals that we keep electing allow you to not be treated fairly and have not advocated effectively on your behalf, irrespective of their intent. At some point, when you've been there for 10 years or whether you've been there for an extended period of time and the results aren't there, you have to acknowledge the fact that the job hasn't gotten done.
Now, are you... with the current administration in the White House, there seems to be somewhat of a blue wave that they're calling it going around. Do you and the Westchester Democratic County Chair Reginald Lafayette likes to throw the facts that I think Democrats outnumber Republicans 2-1 or better or something like that. Right. Are you concerned about that in your it's an uphill battle in your running?
No.
Okay.
The reality is, if we're looking at it from a statistical standpoint, Rob Astorino won my district last year, in spite of the fact that there was a blue wave that basically, washed him out of office. Every single person in Yonkers who was a Republican on the ballot won my district. Whatever portion of the district overlapped with my district. The fact of the matter also is that when we talk about the blue wave, we're talking about the rest of Westchester. We're talking about 3-car garage Westchester. Right, Yonkers is not 3-car garage Westchester. Yonkers is a 1-car garage with too many cars to fit in the driveway. Right, that is what we're dealing with in Yonkers. And these individuals, my neighbors, the people that I talk to every day, literally cannot afford to send a national message at the expense of their local needs. We have eminent, dire needs right now. When I talk about trying to make sure that we can sunset the personal income tax in Yonkers, which went into effect in 1984, people don't realize that that had a sunset date. That sunset date was 35 years. 35 years is 2019. We have an opportunity, if we have leaders with courage, to go to Albany and said, we need you to do what you said you were going to do when you said it, which is to let that tax die because it has not produced the results that you thought it was going to.
I'm sorry, allow me to interject and ask you to clarify, please, for us, because it's not evident to me precisely what tax you're talking about. Can you just tell us is that the city?
So Yonkers quietly has a personal income tax that exists literally nowhere else in the entire state outside of the 5 boroughs, right? So you go on, that's why you go on TurboTax today. They ask you if you're going to file your taxes. First question they're going to ask you is, have you lived in Yonkers, right? Because again, if you live in Yonkers or you're an employee in Yonkers, there is a Yonkers personal income tax that comes out of your taxes, right? And that is a tax that was a compromise. Again, when we had that federal lawsuit, the state would give us $10 million, whatever that was supposed to do, because I don't know how you fix 40 years of systemic inequality with a $10 million check. And then on the flip side of that was that for the next 35 years, the state would give Yonkers the statutory authority to literally tax the people of Yonkers, to basically tell us to make like Jesus and heal ourselves, right? And I don't care who you're talking to. The reality is that at the end of the day, nowhere in history have you ever healed society by asking people with little to actually fix the gap that they don't have by taking more money out of their pockets.
Absolutely.
So this was an income tax that was instituted with the permission of the state in order to allow the city of Yonkers to address some of the public policy challenges that they faced during the 1980s.
Correct. The powers that be decided that we'll write you a check for $10 million. Additionally, will allow you to levy this personal income tax. What people don't realize, the most pernicious part about this tax is that when we talk about the fact that Yonkers is underfunded, the fact that Buffalo and Rochester get 98% reimbursements on capital investments and the Yonkers only gets 70%. What people don't realize is that part of the justification that the state uses to underfund us is the revenue brought in by the personal income tax. So they give us the statutory authority to levy a tax. And then they point to the revenue that tax brings in and says, that is why we don't need to fund you at a greater level. And so again, even though we're paying more and more and more, even though the city is basically now at, over 90% of the constitutional limit because we just busted the tax cap again because the governor did us a favor to give us $8.8 million, or however many millions of dollars he gave us to fill the gap on the school side, even though, again, that's our money, right? This is not, you're not doing us a favor, right? If I take $10 out of your right pocket and I put $7 back in your left pocket, you didn't give me any money. Right, it's my money, right? And so that's the issue that we're dealing with here in Yonkers, is getting people to understand that I understand it's very easy to continue to go to the polls and say, my daddy was a Republican, his daddy before him was a Republican, I'm going to vote for the Republican. My mama was a Democrat, my daddy's a Democrat, I'm a Democrat, I'm going to vote for the Democrat. But that is not working. It hasn't worked. And so at this point, we just need to sit down and say, what are the issues facing our city? Who recognizes the issues facing our city? Who is responsible for having those things come to be? And who is going to have the courage to stand up and say enough is enough?
Sandy Barnaby from the Anti-Racism Alliance said, great line. How do you fix 30 years of systemic equality with the $10 million check? Inequality with the $10 million check. She liked that. Yeah. So it's just comment. And I know about being underfunded as a resident and born in Mount Vernon. So
we in the same boat.
Yeah, so we know Mount Vernon has been traditionally underfunded, and we don't get our share of a lot of the stuff you're talking. Like we have the same issue there.
Right.
Yeah. And we're also the dumping ground of the county when they want to put their poor and the people that they don't want in the other municipalities, they get dumped in Yonkers and Mount Vernon.
Yep.
Yeah. So
it's just, it's unfathomable how these things keep happening year after year after year after year. But again, on some base level, the fine print is because we allow it. And that's the apathy that comes along with unopposed elections.
Right.
That's
Dr. Bob,
right,
last question. You had a question, right? Comment?
I did. Is the last question?
Well, we're going to give him a chance to do his how you could get in touch with him, his last words, and all that other stuff.
Okay. So, Joseph, I know you are synthesizing complex strands of thought and analysis in your comments about policy proposals, but I found something curious in what you just said. On the one hand, you have, I think, rightly suggested that the city of Yonkers is suffering from some sort of budgetary shortfall.
Yes.
That has in fact now endangered the school system amongst other municipal services.
Correct.
But on the other hand, you also are advocating for the elimination of this personal income tax that the city was allowed to impose as a way of bringing in greater revenue. And so it sounds to me like
Well,
if we eliminate the tax like you propose,
so I mean,
then
that's what everyone says,
that's
right?
What
that's what happened. Where the system becomes reliant on toxicity, right? You can be addicted to heroin, and it's also at that point dangerous for you to stop taking heroin, right? Your body has developed a physical dependency that if you stop, you will die, right? That is the chemical reality of dependency. Yonkers has a dependency on toxic taxation. Right, that is what we're dealing with. And so, yes, in a binary situation where yesterday we had the tax, tomorrow we don't have the tax, yes, that could be a situation where if nothing else changes, then yes, we would have some dire problems. But the fact remains is the reason that nothing changes is because of the tax. In part.
Okay.
Right.
So let me put the question to you.
Yes.
What would you want to see changed if that tax was eliminated? How would the city still manage to make efficient use of its resources and address some of these
Here we go.
sources?
All right. So we got a few things, right? So you're looking at a situation where we have this personal income tax. Obviously, if that goes away, people say, "Oh, where's the money come from?" Well, look, the money doesn't just vanish in thin air, right? It's almost like when people say, "Well, you know, what happens to all those money after a drug bust?" Right? The police don't burn it; they don't put it in the furnace and light it on fire. Right, we're sitting here in a situation where saying that money goes back into the pockets of the people who live in Yonkers, right? That is people who are buying bread in Yonkers, people who are buying beer in Yonkers. That's the reality, is that Yonkers is not a sleepy vacation town. The people that live in Yonkers spend the most money in Yonkers. That is just our reality. So from that standpoint, it is a stimulus for the people of Yonkers. It's also, again, when you start talking about why are foreclosures up in Yonkers, it's because people don't have the money in their bank account to pay the bank. Why the fact that people's hedges aren't trimmed is because people don't have the money in the bank to pay the gardener. Like, these are the realities that people are dealing with. So again, putting that money back in people's pockets helps to create a broader, a more vast situation for the people in Yonkers. From a government standpoint, when you start talking about what needs to happen, well, now look, that tax base that you are losing to justify not giving us our fair share of our very own dollars is gone, right? And so now the state has to do something different, right? You can look at from a simple standpoint of, in this state, the state of New York pays property taxes on 90% of the land that it owns across the entire state. You go to places like Austin, that's close to $13 million, you know, where dollars are just flowing in all over the place. You've got a situation where we've got marshland in New York State, where it literally is unusable, not just in the present, but possibly for decades into the future. The state pays millions of dollars in property taxes on. In Westchester County, it pays property taxes on 80 acres, 89 acres, I'm sorry, I'm off. 89 acres in Westchester County of close to, you know, nearly 7,000 acres. 89. In Yonkers, we have 450 acres of state-owned land where the state pays 0 property taxes on any of those acres. And so again, when I come back to our central theme that again, Yonkers has invested in New York, but New York has not invested in Yonkers. Again, they find ways to take money out of Yonkers, but they do not replenish or do not even give us what they give to everybody else. And so to your point about saying, okay, well, the money's going to be gone, what then? What then? Yes, we need to get to the what then. We need to get to the point where we're saying you're paying property taxes on practically every other county across the state. Where is our just due? We get to the standpoint where we're saying that you are literally taking money out of our city to fund opportunity for children all around this state. We have in New York State something called the hold harmless provision. That hold harmless provision basically states that no school district can receive less money one year than they did the previous year. That sounds simple, it sounds harmless, but it's not. It has a devastating effect on places like Yonkers, which is the fastest growing school district in the state outside of New York City, at a time when over the last 5 years, high school enrollment is down 6%, right? And so you have dollars that are literally locked in districts that there are no longer students there. Districts down 15% in enrollment, 10% in enrollment, 25% in enrollment, and the dollars are stuck there because of a whole harmless provision that won't let them follow the students. We're saying, look, we can allow those dollars to follow the students. We have a rise in enrollment here in Yonkers. Let those dollars follow those students, right? There are simple things that I can do. Every single politician that walks in here, that has the courage to walk in here and talk to you, is going to say, I want fair funding for Yonkers. Every single one of them. Every person in Westchester is going to walk through this door, they're going to say, I want fair funding for Westchester. They don't know how to do it. They're not being serious about it. And so to me, the reality is there are things that we can do irrespective, even if you get to the point where I say, I can't actually change the formula. I can't get us more than 70%, or I can only get us up to 75% or 80%. There are things you can do in a bipartisan manner to go to the other similarly affected districts, to say that there are over 250 districts in this state that have exceeded their target range for aid, and that we can go to those other districts of people in the Assembly, in the Senate, who are victims like Yonkers, but on a smaller basis, and saying that your children are being getting the short end of the stick. And these are things that we can do to work together to make sure that those dollars follow the students. And if things like that start happening, if we can get the state to start doing what they do for everybody else, to pay property taxes on the land that they own, that's how you start dealing with that dollars, the actual dollar figure that wasn't going to be there from the tax income. But it's also a way that you can just start across the board having equity and parity for the people who live in Yonkers to not only have the money that they've worked hard for in their pockets to take care of their daily needs, but also the municipal dollars and the aid we require to make sure that we can build new schools and have a better world.
Okay.
Sandy Barnaby was asking, she said, state pays 0 property taxes? I'm not clear. How can the state pay property taxes to other counties but not Westchester?
It's amazing, but yet the state pays property taxes on 89 acres in Westchester County. That is it.
And how many acres does it hold, Joe?
7,000 acres of state-owned land that are here in Westchester County.
And how much of that is Yonkers again?
450 acres in Yonkers.
Wow, okay.
So the state has a considerable exemption of the on taxes
they pay property taxes on 90% of the land they own across the state. They pay property taxes on 0% of the land they own in Yonkers. So you don't have to be a rocket scientist to know that, again, we're getting shortchanged.
For those listening to you, wait, for those, I want to get this in before we run out of time. Before those listening to you, they want to know more about you. They want to know how to reach you, how they can give to you. What's your social media, websites?
So you can go to joepinion.com. That's Joe Pinion, like opinion without the O, .com. You can find out a little bit more about me. We have on our website, it's called Talk to Joe. You can click there. You can make a time to talk to me or email me, and we'll set it up. I'm here to answer literally every question that our constituents have, because ultimately this election is too important. You can find us on social media at Pinion4NY across Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. My personal account is Joseph Pinion, the full government on Twitter, and you can find me on Instagram personally at I am Joe Pinion.
Okay, so Joe, you think one of the ways to make up for to address the financial crisis that the city of Yonkers is facing is to eliminate the personal tax burden, but insist that the state provide the city with its rightful share of state revenues.
The basic thing is the state needs to treat Yonkers fairly. The state needs to treat Yonkers the way it treats everybody else. And the reality is we've had a litany of politicians that seem to be in the go with the flow. They seem to think that some money is better than no money. And the reality is we just need to be treated fairly and equitably. And it has not happened literally my entire life. And in this election, we have one opportunity really to fix it. Again, that Yonkers personal income tax has a sunset date of 2019. It would have to be reauthorized. We have the opportunity to try to really get some work done and move forward here.
Joe, I want to ask you just to make clear for us why you think this particular upcoming election is so critical for addressing the kind of challenges that the city is. It seems like you this is kind of
again, what we start with that tax. I mean, again, if they reauthorize it for another 35 years, that's a lifetime. That's literally my entire lifetime. We go from 1984 to now. That is my lifetime. They reauthorize it for another 35 years. Who knows if I'm even going to be around?
I pay that tax, by the way.
So that's the reality. When you start talking about the fact that, again, we're seeing changes now in the way that gambling is dealt with across this state. The full gambling moratorium is going to be up. There was a 7-year moratorium on full gambling across the state, a basic freeze on full gambling. That's going to be upcoming. So if you start talking about what's going to happen between now and 2020, the conversations about how do we begin to start deciding which casinos or which racinos are going to be approved for that conversation is going to be starting now. Currently, we have an individual who represents part of Yonkers who sits on that gaming commission, and I think, unfortunately, he's been there so long he's forgotten that he works for the people of Yonkers, not the state. And that what's in the best interest of Yonkers is actually what's in the best interest of his constituents. I got
one last, I want to get more questions.
Yes.
We haven't talked about it much. Brenda L. Crump, who was a former Mount Vernon school board trustee.
Yes.
She said, what are your views regarding public charter schools? Money follow the student statement sounds like Joe might support public charter schools.
Well, look, here's the thing. we had this thing right now. Yonkers doesn't have a charter school problem. I just like to say that. I know it's not a popular opinion to have, but the reality is we have about 680 students that attend a charter school in Yonkers. There are 27,000 students that attend Yonkers public schools. The reality is, again, I don't care if you're a black, brown, son of Italy, daughter of Sligo. If you're a student in Yonkers, the greatest threat is not a charter school to your education. The greatest threat are politicians in Albany who won't fully fund you. So again, if you're talking about, I understand that there is a reality that, to me, also Republicans don't talk about a lot, which is that at a certain point there becomes a tipping point where there are too many charter schools that the startup cost of those charter schools actually undermines the maintenance cost of your public school system. That is true. That is an economic, financial reality that does not get talked about. That is not a financial reality in Yonkers right now. The financial reality that we have right now, while we were talking about having to possibly lay off, close to 200 and over 250 school personnel, was because of the fact that we simply haven't gotten the resources that we deserve. And I think, to me, if we can focus on those issues and not focusing on issues that, get people, kind of inflamed and saying, oh, well, this person has this ideology. This is not an ideological battle. This is a battle for making sure that Yonkers gets its just due.
Okay. Loraine, did you have any last questions? Or?
Yeah, I have a question, which it's probably more of a CNN question or a national question.
We want some national questions. This brother needs it.
The schools are growing in Yonkers. Yep. The amount of children and the majority, I would say 80% of that is immigrants that are born in Yonkers. Yonkers has thousands of immigrant families living here now, most of them in fear. But the question I have for you is, what do you personally think about the zero tolerance
immigration
policy that President Trump just put out there, and is separating the families of immigrant children? I mean, we have, in the last month and a half, 2,000 children are being separated from their parents, especially a day like today, Father's Day, and they're putting numbers on them. They're putting numbers on their sleeves and on their chests to identify who they are, like a concentration camp.
Yeah, I mean, it's an abomination. I think that at the end of the day, we are a nation of laws, but we also have a responsibility to reflect the spirit of those laws and also the spirit of humanity. It is, to me, inhumane to try to rip children out of the arms of their families. It's also inhumane to think that somehow it's more humane to think that, oh, well, maybe if we just all put them in a cell together, that's a better alternative. I mean, this is just, it's lunacy, right? It's ideology on steroids, and it needs to end. So to me, I think it's sad that we've reached a point in society where somehow we can talk about issues in such stark terms that the humanity of those involved gets lost. Having said that, again, like I said, for me, at the local level, these aren't necessarily things that you get to deal with as an assembly person. And so again, even, I have, some opponents who are always, literally their entire campaign seems to be either Donald Trump or the Supreme Court or things of that nature. And again, these are important issues, but the fact remains, we got a primary election next week or this coming week for Congress. If people want to talk about those issues, that's where they lie. And so that's my thing, to be able to, we should be able as a society, as Joe, private citizen, to be able to come here on Black Westchester and talk about the issues that are literally ripping our communities of color apart. But then as it pertains to what we can do at the local level, I think, again, my challenge, and one of the things, irrespective of my decision to run for this office, was to get people to understand of who to go with your pain, all right? Understand that who can do what for you. And once we understand who can do what for us, then we can start leveraging the political process to have better outcomes for our people.
You got a thumbs up from White Plains Common Council, Nadine Hunt Robinson. She gave you a thumbs up. So last words, anything I didn't ask you. I want to say there are other questions, and you said you had a thing on your website where you can they can make a time to talk to you, so
no,
they can ask you directly.
I'll try to see if we can go through at the end and go through the feed to see if we can answer any of those questions as well.
Okay.
But yeah, like I said, obviously, thank you so much for having me on here. Hope to come back, sometime before the campaign's over, or as we go through the summer. Because again, I mean, there's so many issues that need to be talked about. Like I said, 24% of the children that live in Yonkers live in poverty. We've got 78% of the kids in Yonkers public schools that can't afford lunch, right? And the overwhelming majority of these children are black and brown students, right? Like I said, we've gone from a point where we were sued in 1980, because of segregation in our public schools. Fast forward today, we've got 76% of the children that are attending Yonkers public schools are black and brown students, right? So when you start talking about that fact, and start talking about the fact that what are we really achieving, right? We're spending, over $30 million a year moving children around to create racially diverse schools that statistically speaking can't be created, right? We statistically speaking cannot create racially diverse schools. And it's deeper than that, because I know we want to have economically diverse schools as well, but we don't live in the perfect world. We live in the real world. And in the real world, we have a responsibility to make sure that we're just having the best possible schools for all of our students, and making sure that those schools, irrespective of their creed, are able to prepare them for the best possible life outcomes.
Okay.
Do you have any debates coming up with NADA?
I don't know. I mean, I made the remark the other day that, I mean, they're taking a lot of pictures over there. It's I actually had to ask somebody and pinch myself to see if I missed the election, and he already got elected.
Well, I want to make a offer. I would like to invite both of y'all back on for an informal, debate where people can see both of y'all, answering questions. So I would like to, see if we can set that up. In the near future.
I know that. I mean, I also know there's Anthony Nicodemo, who's also running for that seat. And again, I think, to me, it's important for people to get the full spectrum of views. Because again, like I said, this election is too important. We're talking about the next 35 years in Yonkers.
Well, since they're still determining with their primary, so after they have a primary and we have an actual candidate, then that candidate and you.
It's typical. I mean, I actually ran into him at the Ukrainian Fest. I think we might end up having a three-way race ourselves here in Yonkers. So who really knows? But we'll see what happens.
Okay. Well, again, I invite you to definitely.
But I'm more than happy to be
back.
Please,
come back.
Please,
you gotta come back.
We'd like to have you discuss, win or lose, just come and discuss the issues. This is what we do here. You know what I'm saying? And
absolutely.
When we get somebody who can articulate the issues and break it down, we definitely have to have you come back.
No, I appreciate it. Like I said, it's a blessing to be here and doing this work. I was on Warburton the other day. I saw a brother. He's like, I know you, and I was like, oh well, maybe you saw me on. My grandmother called it the Don Lemon, right? So said,
I love that, man.
I don't know, y'all didn't notice that.
Yeah, so my grandma's like, I saw you.
Hold on.
He's like, no.
This ain't this, brother.
He's like, I saw you on TV when I'm rolling. So, I think it's important that when we have outlets, to talk about, in great detail, with specificity, what happens to communities of color. It's important for us to, to be able to leverage that and talk about it and to amplify those voices. So I appreciate the work you guys do here, and thank you so much for having me on.
Absolutely. And Brenda has posted links to all your social media and articles as you have written. It's all in the feed. So everybody, the sites, the pages, that's what she does. She points all of that. Sandy Barnaby said, thank you. Speak out and organize to stop this. That was what her comment was. And we got 2 minutes. Unless you're going to ask a question,
no,
30
it's not
seconds
a question.
or less.
It's not a question. I want to amplify a point that is implied in some of Joe's comments, and that is that the lack of party competition in communities of color throughout the United States that have been dominated overwhelmingly by Democrats, I think, does do a tremendous disservice to our ability to forge new solutions. If we go back historically, the Democratic Party dominated politics in the South for centuries during the antebellum period and post-antebellum period, and most commentators have concluded that was harmful to the formulation of policies that serve the interests of people of color in the South. And the same kind of point, I know I've tried to make the same kind of point in a lot of my proposals to start alternative formations, political formations to the Democratic Party in Mount Vernon, because I do think it's the case that without competition, our party leaders have gotten comfortable and they have grown complacent and have rested on their laurels, and a lot of problems have festered without anyone really looking for solutions.
Yep. I mean, even
in that sense, I think.
Yeah, I mean, even here in Yonkers, I mean, look, look, again, Shelley's a great person, but all of a sudden, she decided she wanted to be a state senator. She had an actual competition for that special election. Next thing you know, we got $250,000 over here for an elevator. We've got laws being funded for, for gun violence prevention upstate. We have Congressman Elliot Engel, who's been there literally my entire life in D.C. All of a sudden, he's got
an actual, next week.
Yeah, he had a primary opponent, and next thing you know, all of a sudden, I saw push alert on my phone, $10 million for Westchester. I said, my goodness. Like, all it took was a halfway decent primary challenge, and suddenly, dollars start flowing. It's amazing what happens when people's actual personal veracity is on the line. And so to me, I think it's important for us as a community to say, who is talking about the issues that are going to impact our communities positively, and making sure that people are actually earning our vote and earning our trust.
Absolutely, absolutely. Again, we applaud you. Thank you for coming.
No, I appreciate it.
Black Republicans is not something we see often, so it's just like,
They're not that uncommon.
But I'm just saying, it's just not, you don't see the term, because traditionally, and I'm not a Democrat or a Republican, but I'm independent. Like, you know what I'm saying? And I vote for the best candidate, and even when I was a registered Democrat, I still felt that. And I don't believe in party slates, because I think some weaker candidates get in for being on a slate.
Yep.
And I think we should pick the best person for each seat. So regardless of party affiliation, I like to give people an opportunity to get to know the candidates, and then hopefully they can make more informed selections at the ballot box.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? So that's what we're about. Again, so that saying, Republicans don't have to fear coming on here, because they're told not to come on here. A lot of them.
Well,
we've had one Republican said that he was told not to come.
I mean,
don't go over there.
I mean, the reality is, like I said, Malcolm X always said, sincerity is my credential. And I think the reality is that we've got a lot of people, in politics who lack the sincerity for their outrage or their concern to be deemed credible. I've tried to maintain and say, look, first and foremost, my priority is to make sure that my community is taken care of. And how you advocate for your community, there is no one way to do that, right? There's a blueprint of how we move forward as a people, and we've done it. And so it's about replicating that blueprint irrespective of your political sensibilities.
I wanted to shout out the few people that we didn't get to. Nadine Hunt Robinson, that says she's on. Wilson Terrero joined in. Charlie Khalil joined in. I'm not sure if I missed anybody else's name. If I did, I apologize. But as always, you are listening to Black Westchester presents the People Before Politics radio show every Sunday, 6 to 8 on InTheMixRadio.com. The June issue is out right now. If it's not, we're going to try to fill some of the spots that it ran out. We're running out everywhere it is right now. We're working on the July issue. You still have less than a week if you want to advertise for the July issue. You still have about less than a week. Hit us at advertise with bw@gmail.com. We're also taking ads for our anniversary issue. Our 1 year anniversary issue is August. We got a lot of spots there. They're running through them quickly. And the 4 year anniversary of People Before Politics is the first week in August. And as we did with the 100th episode, we're taking sponsors. So, we're going to get a commemorative T-shirt and all that stuff. So if you're interested in any of that stuff, please hit us, advertise with BW. As always, you could have been doing anything, but you chose to ride with us, and we greatly appreciate this. My partner, happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there and all the men taking care of somebody else's kids. Are you a father? I didn't ask you. Are you a father?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
Got to get married first.
Okay. Well, ladies, that's another thing. Ladies, he's unmarried. See? Okay, there you go. So anyway, I would like to let my co-host, the lovely Loraine Lopez, Dr. Bob, a.k.a. Biff Baskerville. Thank you for participating. Happy Father's Day. And see you next week. We're supposed to have Congressman Engel on the show. And after that, the next week is Clive Isley, former Mount Vernon commissioner, who will be talking about the state of the Mount Vernon Police Department. So that's definitely going to be a show you do not want to miss. With that said, we're out. Peace.
2 million black victims of Americanism are waking up, and they're gaining a new political consciousness, becoming politically mature. And as they develop this political maturity, they're able to see the recent trends in these political elections. Any minority that has a block of votes that stick together is in a strategic